in honor of Kortney. We know he would be happy to see all your faces and know that you're here. And we just hope to be able to celebrate the life of a wonderful young man. We're going to start out with having Ken Turrell come up.
Just talk loud.
Just
Okay,
talk.
I can do
You can do that.
that. Okay, Courtney Dean Anderson, 45, of Albany, Oregon, died March 21st, 2022 at home after an extended illness. He was born January 23rd, 1977 in Caldwell, Idaho, to Rod and Lila Anderson. He shared his birthday with his older brother Cam, and they were best friends for the rest of his life. The family moved to Albany, Oregon in 1982, where he attended high school, graduating from South Albany High School in 1995. He attended Chemeketa Community College before moving to Middleton, Idaho to start an apprentice program. He returned to Albany and worked a short time for Beta Seed before going to work for Brothers Concrete. Brothers was a wonderful place to work, and he made many lifelong friends. They were truly a second family to him. Court was an avid golfer, playing several times a week with a group of wonderful friends. He loved the annual trips with his brother and friends to sporting events across the country, from Boston to Chicago to Pittsburgh to San Diego and many more. Court was a beloved son, brother, nephew, uncle, cousin, and friend. His niece, Sophie, was the light of his life, and he loved playing any kind of game with her. Courtney loved animals, especially his little dog, Daisy. That was his constant companion after he adopted her in 2010 until her passing in 2018. Court is survived by his mother, Lila Anderson, his brother, Cam, his niece, Sophie, and many aunts, uncles, cousins, and good friends. He was preceded in death by his father, Rod Anderson, his grandparents, Bill and Dorothy Anderson, and his grandmother, Nadine Turrell.
Thank you, Kenny. And Kenny is Lila's brother. So Cam and Court's uncle. And now we'd like to ask Mr. Dick Harding to come up and say a few words.
Well, I am the owner of Brothers Concrete Cutting, and I was going to read a couple of things from a couple of fellow employees of Court's, because we all realize that we worked for Court. If you didn't realize it right off the beginning, you realize it after a while. The first one is from Chris Beck. He's the operations manager, and Chris says, Court was probably the most skilled core drill operator that I've come across. He didn't meet a project that he couldn't achieve the objective. The biggest one, most nerve-wracking one, was the Dalles Dam, when North Bank, who's a contractor, had to replace the upstream lock gate. We had to core, get this is something. We had to core multiple 5-inch core drill holes 30 feet deep and be within an 8-inch on the other side. That's scary. Court did it, hitting the target at the end, and he nailed it. Leading up to the job, he wasn't worried one bit. Well, Chris says that he was stressed to the max. The second one is from our daughter, Jocelyn Beck. And this gives you some insights between somebody that you work with and somebody that works for you, because some of this stuff I didn't know. And I'm glad. Everyone knew of Court's love for police videos and NPR. I did not know that. Probably is good, but he so loved his mom, we knew that, and he had a soft spot for dogs. Court was hardworking He got handed all of the jobs that were clean or difficult or required expertise. And what she meant by clean is not like a clean job, it's a job that is in a clean room to where everything has to be just spotless. And you only send your absolute best to those jobs, and Kort was one of those. He perfected his skills, taught others those skills in his own Kort way. He was meticulous, absolutely meticulous. It was Kort's way or the wrong way. Now, while working, Tom and I kept asking ourselves, what would Kort do? And they still do. He was a master driller. He was reliable and dependable. He was family and he was a friend. My brother and I started Brothers Concrete Cutting in 1978, and I would give a third of the credit to my wife because she kept us on the straight and narrow. During all of those years, we have had a lot of employees, some good and some not so good, and a few great ones. Through the years, Kort became one of the great ones. I personally feel that he was the best core drill operator on the West Coast. And you know that when contractors call and they ask for a certain employee, and they would call and ask for Kort. Kort worked for Brothers Concrete Cutting for over 20 years, beginning his career on January 18th, 2001. Over time, he found a place to belong, another family of lifelong friends. Through the years, he became more and more knowledgeable and proficient at what he did. He continued increasing and sharing his knowledge to the very end. When he could no longer work in the field, he continued to come into the shop, taking equipment to jobs, encouraging his coworkers, helping with jobs that were being quoted, and being available by the phone to help with problem jobs. And that is a very special thing. That was Kort. I hope that he took great pride in his job because he was exceptional at it. Kort was respected by his coworkers as well as the contractors in the construction industry for the work he did. This is not to say that he didn't have any problems. This job was not for wimps. He had bad days just like all of us and could butt heads with the best of them. But you knew where you stood with Kort. And when he had said his piece, this is an admirable thing, he would move on. We could all learn a lesson there. This is an admirable quality. During the last year, when he could do the least physically, he showed his most heart. He was concerned because he knew that he was needed and he wanted to come back to work, but he couldn't. The message here is to enjoy each day because we don't know what tomorrow brings. Kort would call me every day, every 2 weeks, or every week, just to chat and let Carolee and I know how he was doing. I would say, "How's Kort?" He would say, "Not too bad." He would never complain or blame anybody. In fact, he would tell me about other patients that he would see at the doctor's for treatment and say, "Now there are some people that have it rough." And he'd say, "I don't have anything to complain about." That's admirable. In conversation, it would always leak through how much he loved his family. He was more concerned about how his sickness was affecting his mom than himself. He would say, "I've got to stick around for Lila," and then laugh. Kort is greatly missed, and he will never be forgotten.
Michael Stovall, I believe, is going to come up and say a few words.
I don't need the microphone. I want the microphone.
When I got asked to do this about a month ago, I have a massive fear of public speaking. I'm like, Lila, why would you ask? But I'm glad she did, because we're here to celebrate him, and I want to make sure we get a couple good stories, fun stories. We've all heard about his dog Doodle, and I had a lot of firsthand knowledge with that dog and him. Show up at his house one day, doors open, and you hear talking. Doodle bear, daddy loves you. Doodle, Doodle, can daddy get a kiss? I get to the door, he's on all fours, the dog is on the couch, and he's blowing on its stomach. Stand there for about 30 seconds. Oh, daddy loves that. Oh, Doodle. Finally, I'm never seen a man hop up so fast in all my life. His response is, what? We weren't doing anything wrong. What the hell were you doing? You know. 2 seconds later, he's right back on all fours, blowing on the dog's stomach. When that dog passed, people probably don't know this about him, but family aside, his prized possessions were his golf clubs, and he had a photo of Doodle in a Christmas sweater on Santa's lap. Oh. Kept it in his house. When the dog passed, he carried it in his truck for the remaining of days. You know, that dog was his true companion. And my second one is a week before his passing, I was over there talking with him, and he asked me if we were going to rob a bank together. I had nothing going on, I'm in. And if you're from Albany, you know on 34th Street there used to be a red canoe, and if anybody works there, you guys are safe. And there's an apartment complex there now, but it used to be a dirt field. And he set it up with, don't worry, I have a plan. Fantastic. Kortney's got a plan. At this point, you know, cancer eating him, and I'm like, we're not going to go Mission Impossible, but he's got a plan. It was so diabolical. We were going to walk in the front door and just go to the teller and ask for money. What could go wrong? But it was the little parts of the plan that were the best. I was going to carry the oxygen so he could grab the money bags. Sure. And my favorite part of it was his Uncle Mike, Kenny, Paula, and everybody was coming into town, and they were bringing Grandpa's Rascal. That was our getaway car. A Rascal. I'm 230 pounds, let's call it that. But he had that worked out too. Oxygen went in the front, he got to drive, and I was standing on the back. Our getaway car was 3 miles an hour. And then, but not to worry, we were gonna lose him in the field. What the hell are we gonna do, man? They're gonna walk beside us and arrest us. I said, maybe we need a gun, Court. He goes, you're right, but not a real one, because that's more jail time. We're caught anyway. And my favorite part of it is, he wanted a Nerf gun with orange darts. And the best part of all this story is he had on a red sweatshirt, hood up, his oxygen on, covered up, and he looked like E.T. at the end when he's riding on the bike. And he pulls his finger out, and he goes, I want a code name, Agent Orange. I didn't get one, but he did. So I laughed my ass off. Thought it was the funniest thing I ever heard. And, you know, honest God's truth is I would have robbed 1,000 banks if it would have gave him another day, you know, an hour, whatever. And, you know, I think it's poetic we're out here on the golf course here because, like I said, his two favorite things were right here in that picture of Doodle. So I wish he was here. We could play 9 or 18 and, you know, he'd probably hit it off a tree and break his glasses again, but I'd take 1,000 of those days, you know. Thank you.
Trevor Harold.
I met Kortney at Brothers Concrete Cutting when I was 16 years old. I was just a dumb kid that probably caused more frustrations than actual help then. For the first few years, I think I maybe spoke 3 or 4 times with Court. I was a pretty shy and quiet kid at work, and at that time, The first few days we worked together, I remember being really nervous because I kept hearing, he'll yell at you if you piss him off, no matter who's around, and he'll leave you if you're late. Even if you're 1 minute late, he will leave you. Which eventually in those first few years both happened. But I deserved it. I was definitely more than a minute late more than once, and I was absolutely doing something I needed yelled at for. But after a couple years went by, I started working with him more and more, and he quickly became one of my favorite guys to work with. He was not only fun to work with, he was one of the best core drillers I'd ever seen. I remember multiple times on jobs that me or another guy would challenge him to see who could drill more holes in a day. Every time, he would smirk and say, "No chance, bud." Once we started coring, I wouldn't take a single break, except for at lunch, when we both would stop for a bit. Meanwhile, Kort would take a cigarette break about once an hour, never once seemed to be hustling or even trying for that matter. And every single time, somehow, he would always have more holes at the end of the day. He was truly a master of his craft, and still to this day I have no idea how he was so efficient while at the same time making it so effortless, look so effortless. But Kort was not just good at what he did. He was truly a joy to work with. He was a guy that no matter how bad the day sucked, it was always more bearable when I was working with him. He had a way about him too. It could be freezing rain, working at the bottom of a muddy trench all day, working a 16-hour shift. It was always made better if I was working with him. No matter what we had to do, I knew that if I was working with him, it wasn't going to be that bad of a day. The Kortney that I was lucky enough to get to know wasn't anything like the man I first assumed he was. He was the guy that took his dog to his parents' house every day, whether it be 4 a.m. or earlier, and then pick her up afterwards just so that she wouldn't have to be home alone all day. He would cook her food, he would go to get her a burger, throw everything away, and just tear up the patty just to make sure she would eat that night. I remember one day, I asked him to work a night, or I told him he had to work a Friday night. And he called me upset, yelling, and when I finally caved and said I would have someone else do it, he found out who it was, and the guy had a newborn baby. He called me back and said, he has a kid. He needs to be at home with his family. I'm gonna yell at you for making me work nights, TJ, but I'll still do the job. Deep down, he really did have a heart of gold. And as much as I enjoyed working together, the time I got to spend with Kort outside of work, I will cherish forever. I remember the first time he invited me to go golf with him and Mike. I was flattered to know that he thought I was cool enough to hang out with him and his friend. At the same time, nervous, they would think I sucked and not want me to go again. The nerves quickly vanished though, as I realized they sucked just as bad as me. During those first few years we started hanging out, I always looked forward to spending Saturdays together. I loved golfing, going to the bar for a few beers after, sometimes before and after. I remember one time going to the bowling alley for a beer before golfing, and him trying to jiggle the door handle, and they weren't open yet. He quickly scurried back to the truck and said, "You don't want to be the guy that tries to get to the bar before it's open. It's not a good look. Let's give it 20 before we try again." I really did enjoy all the time I got to spend with him. And over the last 6-7 years, Kortney really did become one of my best friends, a friend that I'll never forget. I'm blessed and honored to be fortunate enough to have shared that friendship.
Remember all the good memories of which you were a part. Take time to look back, and it's okay to shed those tears, but think of all you enjoyed together for so many years. This is what Kortney would want us to do, and he would ask this of each and every one of you. Born in 1977, Kortney's life began. He became a member of the Anderson clan. Rod his proud dad, and Lila his loving mother, and Cameron, the first child, his big brother. Those early years were surrounded with grandpa, grandma, uncles, aunts, and cousins, and lots of friends who loved him too. They counted in the dozens. Cam and Kort, while growing up, wrestled and fought like brothers often do, but when push came to shove, they truly had brotherly love and were there for each other in all they went through. When the Andersons moved to Oregon in 1982, Kortney met and made new friends. The bonds between them grew. Through their school years, baseball, football, and studies, they managed to make sure to always spend time as buddies. Mikey, Davey, Marcus, TJ, Brandon, Brock, and Matt, oh, the stories they could tell. Do you want to share any, fellas? Or maybe not, that might be just as well. Raising two sons, always having a house full of guys, as we know, could turn your hair gray, cause you to age, and add bags under your eyes. Longtime friends and neighbors, Wayne, Sharon, Denise, Al, Monica, Rob, Joan, Kyler, and Emma, we are sure observed many antics and probably could tell us of some times when Lila and Rod were frantic. As this group of young men stepped out into the world, it was important to them to stay in touch, whether hitting the links weekend time or planning their special annual trips as such. Court went to work and found a career. He cemented his place with Brothers Concrete. His co-workers and bosses were his second family for many years. We all knew of Kortney's deep affection for pups. Do you sense a theme here as we've gone through all of this, you guys, about the dogs? Their love and devotion he valued. It filled his heart up. Pickles, Andrew, Daisy Sniper, Joe, and his beloved Daisy Doodle. He loved and cherished them all, the whole kit and caboodle. Kortney was a proud funkle to Sophia, his niece, and he loved spending time with her. Games, movies, puzzles, and cards. They had a good time, no matter where they were. Lila, Cam, and Sophie, look around. You'll see the many lives he touched. And always remember, you were the biggest part of his life. He deeply loved Rod and the three of you so very much. On March 21st, I'm sure God said, something very special is going on. Look at all the dogs at the Rainbow Bridge. They're waiting to welcome Kortney Anderson. Open the gates, let him in. We're blessed to have this kind and gentle soul. And when the tail wags and dog kisses are done, tell Kortney Rod is waiting for him at heaven's 19th hole. Lila asked me to read a few words on behalf of the family. Cam, Sophia, and I would like to thank everyone for coming today. Kortney's passing has left a huge hole in our hearts. He made us laugh every day, and his smile is what we will miss most. He loved so many people and may never have said so, but you knew that he loved you. His friends and family were so important to him. He had so many lifelong friends, and his circle of friends got him through the hard times. We want to thank Kenny and Paula Turrell, Mike and Becky Anderson, for helping us bring our boy home to pass as he wanted to. Also the Stovall family, who were always here for us. Dwayne, Sharon, Matt, Melanie, Marcus, Mary, and Michael. Without all of them, we could not have given him the end of life he wanted. For that, we are eternally grateful. So many people helped us in so many ways. His work family at Brothers Concrete, Dick and Carol Lee, were so good to him, and he loved them for everything they did. Good neighbors and friends were always there for us. Al and Denise Whitmire have been our neighbors and family for 40 years. My dear friends, Judy, Loretta, and Cindy, for the tree to remember Kortney. Gail McKnight for always being just a phone call away. Kortney's friends were what kept him going for as long as he could. He loved going golfing on Thursday nights at the bowling alley. It was one of his saddest days when he could no longer go. He had so many great times with them all, and his best friend and his brother Cam. Our very deepest gratitude to those who have made this service possible. Without having them, it wouldn't have happened. Again, thank you all for loving our boy as much as we did. And now Lila would like, and Cam and Sophie would like you all to partake and sit around, enjoy, and share your memories of Kortney. And thank you again for all being here.